as a lot of us are dealing with the progression from CentOS 7.x to something new, there are a lot of questions about what we want to do. A lot of people are looking at Rocky and Alma. A lot of people seem to be Rocky. We looked at Alma and at one point thought it was a little better. Not sure it makes any difference. Then the question is version 8, version 9. Hearing some of the things Tommy mentioned this morning makes me wonder. We obviously had to do something with our new Sapphire Rapids cluster, so we've just stuck Alma 8.6 on it right now. We're not wedded to that. We're trying to set everything up so we could switch if we wanted to with very little trouble. Just wondering what other people are thinking about.
What I can say, I'm coming from the vendor side now. And so we, of course, since we have all these products that have to run on different OSs, we ask everybody, what are you going to? We want to know what to port to and spend time to. And they pretty much all say exactly what you've said. Alma, Rocky, 8, 9, and they're all right in the middle of testing it in their environment right now also. I have seen, it's been about split between Rocky and Alma recently, just in the past like 4 months. That's kind of what I'm seeing, but there's still always the question of 8 versus 9. And that one's, to me, I think they're trying to decide which distro first and then trying to think about what version. But so all I can tell you is everybody's in the same boat as far as I can tell so far.
Yeah, I think they are, because with CentOS, you said we installed 7.3 or 7.4, and you could progress on that path with patches, and it was still 7.4. Well, the new Rocky and Alma both say as soon, right, right. But now Rocky and Alma say as soon as they release 8.6, 8.5 is end of life now. So you do a patch and you can tell it to only do security patches, but at some point our digital security people are going to say you need to go ahead and do these other patches as well. And what does that do for our third-party software? Which I understand there are issues with trying to certify something for different versions, and they don't want to certify everything.
Yep.
And a new aspect of that is the fact that a lot of the new technologies are only being built on the newer kernels. And so you can't leverage some of the composability, you can't leverage even some of the HBM stuff without a new, as I stumbled into on our nodes, you have to have a newer kernel to be able to do some of the things that they're doing. So if you want to keep up to date on the hardware technologies, you almost have to stay up to date on your OS side of the house. It used to be, CentOS 6, CentOS 7, you knew it was going to be 10 years before it was end of life. You could go through the upgrade paths. It was relatively trivial. We are finding the Rocky 8 upgrades to like 8.4 to 8.6 was painful, just because you had to replace a bunch of stuff. It was. I don't know if they're going to fix it in 9. I haven't had enough testing on 9 yet to do anything. Now that 9.1's out, I'll start working on it. Again, I avoid the .0s of most of the versions of stuff. So I think just to be able to leverage some of the new hardware, new technologies and stuff, you're going to be kind of forced to keep up. I'd like to see, and I need to go back and read the Red Hat plans for how they're going to end of life stuff, but I don't like this model where they stop one and then no more patches, no nothing on it.
Well, if you read it, it says the .10 version is the last one, and it's 5 years into the cycle, and then they will maintain that with security patches for 5 years.
4 years, yeah, exactly.
So do you wait till 8.10 to put it on? I don't know. We've got.
Have you used it enough to know about package compatibility? Like if you go to 8, I think you said what, 8.5 to 8.7, or? Yeah. So if you went to 8.7, the stuff that was compiled on for 8.5 all worked good?
Normally all works.
Okay.
What doesn't work are the kernel module pieces. So unless you keep your kernel version, you basically, if you have to rebuild everything. So from our point of view, we upgrade the kernel version. We've got to rebuild Mellanox OFED. Then you got to rebuild Lustre on top of that. Then you got to rebuild BGFS on top of that. And then if you've got some of these other file system layers, you got to build their client on top of that. And so, it becomes a bit of an ordeal. And then you got to regression test it all. Make sure you didn't break something that was already working. Yeah.
And what happens if they don't all support it?
Then you got a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, as we were doing, I'll share what we were super late in deploying CentOS 7. We actually tried to skip 7 and go straight to 8. And in fact, we were about 2 weeks away from deploying when the announcement came out about the change in the CentOS project, and we said, oops, and then started over and started deploying CentOS 7. We technically still have some CentOS 6 nodes running right now. But I think it's less than like 10, maybe less than 6, and I think they're all technically in like in a lab environment, so not a big deal. We've had one conversation in one meeting, and everyone nodded their heads. So it is not a firm plan. But one of the interesting things that we did do when we deployed 7, we actually decided to build fat singularity images, and our commodity cluster queue, where we do run more like ISV type codes, by default, jobs run inside that image. So they're running in a container image. So what we're thinking we're going to do is we're going to go to Rocky 9 on the bare metal, but we'll continue to offer that existing CentOS 7 image, and then we will probably be forced to also offer a Rocky 8 image. They submit to different queues. It runs on the same bare metal hardware. It's just you pick your operating system based on the name of the queue.
Do you think that container will work correctly?
Well, Greg has his hand in
Like I said, one meeting, 5-minute conversation, everyone nodded their heads, yeah, that's probably what we're going to have to do. We have a lot of details to work through yet.
Okay, have fun. Anybody from Shell want to comment?
Does that mean you want me to hand the microphone on?
Sure.
Not that we would encourage your.
Want to go to Rocky, and as soon as David gives the okay, because I talked to the guys, Greg Kurtzer and stuff, and they've got the support model. I think is a genius thing of you only pay for the number of engineers you have that can call CIQ for support. There's no counting nodes or anything else. It's just how many people can bother them with opening tickets.
Anybody else got comments? Concerns?
So I have lots of concerns, which is why I haven't said yes to Ron yet. And most of them are things around contracting and security and patching and stuff like that. But also, I think Jay was saying about third-party applications. Seismic will be easy because they're well-behaved. It's all the other applications which are not well-behaved we'll have to deal with. So I think that will be the problem. But maybe we can move 80% of the estate over to Rocky, and I can stop paying Red Hat 80% of their money, so that would probably make me happy.
Well, we've been using CentOS for quite a long time. We are quite happy with that. But the security information guys are quite pushing us very hard to go to Red Hat, and it may be our way. Okay, we haven't decided yet. We would prefer going to Rock, but it's not decided yet. And so it's a very nice discussion for us to learn about that.
Okay.
Yeah, for Total
There's actually a
Energies.
concern I have on that. It's like, is IBM going to screw up RHEL at some point? I
Yeah.
think that's a big risk from my point of view. Is you already see what they did to CentOS once they got CentOS and decided to take that line. Are they going to continue to push RHEL?
Yeah, I mean, we moved to Rocky, but we're only speaking from the R&D center in Houston.
We run lots of flavors. I mean, some things like we have to run what the vendor supports. If we're on our Fujitsu A64FX, I mean, we're limited in the deployment stack and the OS that can run on that. It's whatever Fujitsu is really supporting. In production, though, given that we have a large IBM system, we're on RHEL in production. So the jury would be out on where we'll move in production depending on what we would replace our production system with. But yeah, in the research, we have the full freedom to test and try everything out. We just chose Rocky because it seemed like the least path of resistance. Yeah. Sounds like maybe.
Originally, I think there was a concern that Rocky took a little longer to come out with the distribution than Alma did. And then there was a question about the upgrade paths, and I think we may have been actually mistaken on how that was going to be done. It turns out it looks like they're exactly the same. So we may be switching back.
For those of you who use Singularity or now Aptator, it is by the same group that does Rocky too, so CIQ. There's some leveraging of that environment, but Greg Kurtzer, who's the original CentOS guy and is leading the CIQ stuff, he's a real sharp guy. And go talk to him at Supercomputing, and I think you'll get a better feel for what he thinks and his opinions on supporting of the Red Hat environment.
And he's readily available on Slack.
Yeah, actually, right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's helped me before.
Yeah, he's definitely active on the Slack channel.
Do you have, though, paid support contracts
No.
for Rocky, or you're just
No, in fact, we've
deploying
talked to
Rocky?
them about that, and we're going to do something to try to give them a little bit of money out of what little software budget we have. But I'd also like the model, like what Ron was saying, where you pay for how many engineers actually talk to them, not how many nodes you have or how many clients you have. It's how many support people are going to have to deal with. I guess they figure if you only have one person, you can only generate so many tickets a day.
You do your own triage.
Yeah.
So many tickets.
Right.